My name is Dan Dorval, and I'm President and CEO of Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. I am an independent certified financial planner and author of my book, Financial Success for the Rest of Us, Reality-Based Financial Planning for Mainstream America.
Hi, my name is Leah Woodley. I'm an associate financial advisor with Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. Our conversations discuss what it means to do quality of life planning in all areas of your life.
Dan, about 7 years ago, Glamour put out a very short video asking people from ages 6 to 75 what is the one thing that would improve their quality of life. And so you have these young kids providing different responses. I was very surprised to see that money came up at age 6. I thought that was quite young for money to be a concern. And then as you got on later into the 50s, I would say the 50-year-olds seem to be the most content people. They not only one 50-year-old, a 55-year-old brought up money, but everyone else seemed to be pretty content with their lives at that phase. And then 60s, about four different people brought up the fact that money would improve their quality of life. And then 70 to 75, no one brought up money. What did you think about that video?
Well, first off, the first kid mentioning mermaid fins. I thought to myself, who wouldn't benefit from having mermaid fins? I thought it was, and so confidently answered that question. I'm like, that makes total sense. And you kind of get the sense of, as people age, how those priorities shift and evolve, which is a natural evolution of human beings as they get older. You did see money mentioned, though, through all of the age groups at some point. I mean, some of them were more so than others, but money is a common link. And I would argue that what we see every day is very similar to what came up in that video, despite the fact that it's just one person from each age group and it's just one video. What happens is people go through these different phases. So when they're young adults, they don't have any money. So if they want to go to a concert, if they want to do different things, that directly impacts their quality of life. Like right now, because if I don't go to this concert right now, that's a problem. Like I'm not going to do delayed gratification type of thing. I'm going to go now, but I don't have any money. So how am I going to do that? So that becomes a direct contributor to quality of life. Now, as they have kids, they have maybe daycare, they have other challenges, maybe they bought a house, they have a mortgage, they have all these responsibilities. Money comes back again and they go, well, I don't have enough to be able to maybe take a trip or do other things, or maybe they just feel the stressors of that. Well, in the 50s, a lot of times you end up kind of in between. So maybe my kids are older, maybe things have gotten a little bit easier. I'm not retired yet, so I'm working. I'm probably in my peak earning years. And so maybe if I'm not having relationship problems, because I think the 50s started to get into some relationship issues, but if I'm not having relationship issues, maybe I'm pretty comfortable financially speaking, that I'm doing better than I've probably ever been doing in my life. And then 60s, I think what you saw in the video is the separation between some people are really well prepared for retirement, or maybe they're not going to retire and they're still doing very well financially. And then you got the people who go, I would love to retire, but maybe I can't because I don't have money. So 60s, I wasn't surprised to see that pop up. And then the 70s, again, you've kind of figured it out again. Like you're either retired and doing fine or whatever, but you're probably focused on something else rather than money again. So I wasn't too surprised by the video, but it's a fascinating thing to see the differences across all of those generations.
Yeah, it was definitely fascinating for me to watch. And I agree with what you said about the different age groups and how you identified the cause of them, the reason why they would say money. Now, do you think money is actually the answer, or should their answer have been, I want to be able to retire, or I want to be able to go to this concert? Is that truly what they want, or is money the answer?
It's a great question because you're going to see all sorts of articles where they say things like, as money increases, you have an increase in happiness up to a certain level, and then it levels up. Like if I'm making 100 grand a year and all of a sudden I'm making 500 grand a year, they say that you don't get that increase in happiness in the same way because the initial income was enough to at least provide for your basic needs, probably some of your wants. And the 500 grand didn't have that big of an impact on your quality of life. Now, I'm not sure that's true. I think you start getting into really individual type stuff. Like if somebody is heavily motivated by material things, which in most cases, again, I come back to genders a lot. In most cases, men are going to be a little bit more motivated by material things. Women probably more so with relationships and experiences. And so I think you do start to get that differential that more money does actually make some people happier. And for other people, we see they are so content with very little in the way of material needs. And that's not right or wrong. Like
Right.
we kind of watch, like an expert might get up there or a TED talk or something, and they might tell you, oh, if you're motivated by material things, like that's wrong. And I look at that and go, well, no, it's just your personal values and priorities and motivations. If that's your quality of life and money enhances that, I don't see any problem with that.
I agree with that. I think money provides security. So I know we always talk about men and women. So for me, money is a sense of security for me. I think that, like you said, it's okay to want items that are going to bring you quality of life. It's okay to want to feel comfortable and do the things that you want to do. So I definitely agree with that as well. So what would your answer have been? Which answer did you resonate with the most? Are you sticking with the mermaid?
The mermaid fin is going to be way more than money for me because, we all have our lived experience as well. And we develop our money, views typically at a pretty young age. So, I grew up in a KOA campground in Dickinson, North Dakota with very, very poor, like we lived in a trailer house. We didn't have any money. And yet it was probably the happiest time as far as a family that we ever had. We did stuff together. And that's what we learned to value. And so, when we first had our kids, my wife stopped working. We were giving away one entire professional income. We lived on my income. And I've never regretted that from a quality of life perspective because we were able to spend all of that time and resources on experiences more than anything else. Now, other people might have grown up in a completely different way, maybe a different cultural background, whatever that happens to be. And we are all our lived experiences as it relates to, well, everything, but certainly money being one of the primary factors in there. So, what I will tell you is that money means absolutely nothing to me from a quality of life standpoint at this point in my life. A lot of the quality of life factors, and again, keeping in mind, I am one of those people in my 50s. And so what's I've done is over time, I've focused so much on improving quality of life that you do tend to be very content at this stage because I wake up in the morning, I have a routine, I have meaning, I have purpose, I have all of these things happening because I was intentional about it in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So changing my career at 27, that was life altering for me now at 53. But what if that hadn't worked out that well? I don't know about you. Like, do you have a different answer for that?
I think where I'm at right now, my answer would be to have my home paid off because I feel like that's the ultimate freedom. I think once that's taken care of, that takes away any security issues I may have, knowing that I have a permanent roof over my head that no one can take away. But after that, yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I would add. I think that I'm pretty content with everything else.
Well, paying off our mortgage, I mean, we did that quite a few years ago, and it was
Mhm.
definitely writing the check was a little weird because, I think at the time I wrote like $160,000 check, and it was just weird to write a check that big. You feel like that's just not right to do something like that. And yet, at the same time, the next month I didn't have a mortgage payment, and it did add a tremendous amount of security from a cash flow perspective. But right now, I mean, your kids are kind of younger and they're in school and you have activities and you got all the stuff that you got going on. Is that the feeling of like content that you're talking about? Like you just from day to day, you know what your meaning and your purpose is.
Yes, I'm very content with my home life. I'm very content with how things are going with my family, being able to spend time with them, being able to be present with them, make new experiences. That is a big piece of my contentment. I think I now have a pretty stress-free life with this career change. So, I mean, of course, there are days that are more stressful than others, but just in general, looking at the big picture, it's just definitely a lot less stress than what I was previously experiencing. So that my life is really peaceful. And I think that's something that a lot of people look for in different ways. And I think I have peace. So that's what is most valuable to me.
But it sounds like then, your answer a few years ago would have been different because
Yes.
it would have been a career change. Like I want
Yes.
to reduce my stress. I want to have more time. I want more flexibility, not necessarily more money, but it's that time and that control to be able to have
Yes.
power to choose how you want to spend your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My answer definitely would have been different. It would have been get me out of here. So yes, I'm definitely grateful for this change. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I think the important thing for a lot of our viewers is the idea that if you ever reach a point where you feel like you're powerless to change,
Mhm.
I think that's where people really suffer from a quality of life perspective because maybe they're not completely happy with their money or their relationships or their job or whatever it happens to be with their life. And if they feel powerless to change, now it turns into more of a depression or an anxiety or something that impacts every single day and all the activities that they're doing. The point of financial planning and our advice is to empower people to
Mhm.
start to look at their life and go, okay, if I'm not happy in some way, shape, or form, I now understand how to realign my resources in such a way to make changes. And that change has to be intentional. So, if people can do that and they feel empowered, I think that's a huge enhancement to quality of life.
I agree. That goes back to what you shared earlier about how you handled your own life, being intentional in your 20s and 30s and 40s. I think that is definitely key. I think it's important to know what you want. I think it's always good to write things down, determine what it's going to take to get where you need to be. If you need to get advice, get that advice you need and take the steps necessary to make that change. I don't think that you ever have to stay in a situation that you don't like, that's not giving you the quality of life that you want. It may take work. It may take some perseverance. I'm speaking from experience. It
Yeah.
may even take longer than you anticipated, but just be intentional about staying on the path and doing what you need to do to change your situation.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful message and understanding that it's easy for somebody to say know what you want.
Mhm.
You don't always know what you want.
That is
And
true.
it's okay for that target to kind of shift and evolve and change when you start to realize, oh, I do actually know what I want to do. And thinking that through, it's important for people to feel empowered in that way.
Well, this was a great conversation. I hope some people are able to take away different nuggets that we shared on this video. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to our channel, and tune into our conversation next week. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Have a good one.